All this week, NBC News is hosting Education Nation to focus on this vital issue. And here on The Ed Show, we want to have a frank discussion about it, as we always do. This is Governor Scott Walker of Wisconsin bragging about his record on education.
Our budget, our state was unique in that we made those cuts as well, but we gave our schools and our local governments the tools to more than offset them.
Oh, I don't know what you'd do without those tools, but over a 2-year period, cuts to public education in Wisconsin total $1.6 billion. When cuts are calculated per student, Wisconsin is the worst, according to a nonpartisan study. It's followed by New York, California, Ohio, and Texas. Now, in the state of New Jersey, the state Supreme Court overruled cuts that Governor Chris Christie wanted to make in the poorest districts. But Christie has more ideas where that came from. Here's what he said in tonight's speech at the Reagan Library.
And we would reform our K-12 education system by applying free market reform principles to education, rewarding outstanding teachers, demanding accountability from everyone in the system, increasing competition through choice and charters.
Let's bring in the president of the American Federation of Teachers, Randi Weingarten. Randy, good to have you with us tonight.
It's always great to be with you, Ed.
You bet. What is free market? What's he talking about? Was that code language for what?
Well, look, all these folks that don't actually want to spend money on education, like the countries that outcompete us, like, take South Korea, where they're actually hiring teachers while we have actually laid off about 300,000 educators since 2008. The countries that outcompete us invest in education. When you hear somebody talking about the free market and competition and choice, it is their way of saying that they're not going to invest in education. And we've had actually free market theology in education for the last 20 years. And choice is important. Parents should have a choice to ensure that their kids have a great neighborhood school to go to. Charters we've had for 20 years. Some do well. About 17% of the charters in the country do well. The rest of them do either worse or the same as other public schools.
All right.
Let's get serious about actually investing in education like Singapore and Finland, who actually outcompete us.
I think charter schools, what they started out to be and what they were defined as, are totally different today. But there is a real disconnect in this country. We talk about doing right by public education, yet we see cuts to the tune of $1.6 billion, and then the governor of Wisconsin comes out and says, well, actually, we're as good or better. Now, how in the world does that make sense?
Look, I was sitting there during the presentation at Education Nation, and when Governor Walker said that, and I was just I couldn't believe it, because Wisconsin has the highest cut per student this year in the United States of America, the highest cut, and this is a state that was basically number one in graduation rates throughout the United States. Highest cut. Now, what does that mean? It means that art and music programs are going. It means there will be increased class size. But and look, I'm from New York, so, we have a term in New York called chutzpah. And ultimately, the biggest chutzpah line that Governor Walker said was that he gave these districts tools. This is what he did. He wiped out voice. He wiped out collective bargaining. He basically shifted costs so that, for example, the Wisconsin janitor custodian that we represent, who makes $24,000, is now paying 16% more in terms of benefits.
All of these politicians, of course, they want to reward the prolific performers in the classroom, the teachers. No question about that. But it's the money. They don't want to pay anybody. They don't want them to be able to organize. They don't want them to be able to collectively bargain. They want to cut their health care, their pension. They want to run people out of the profession after 10 years of being in, because teachers get so damn sick of the whole thing. And now the school voucher legislation was signed into law in the state of Indiana by Governor Mitch Daniels. Explain the downside, in your opinion, of these voucher programs.
Look, parents have a right to send their kids to the schools that they want to send their kids to. And I don't begrudge any parent who wants to send a child to a religious school to have that right to do so.
So the downside of the voucher program is?
But the downside is, in a period of time when you have, when poverty is up, when school cuts are up, we can't take one more cent out of the public school system and divert it somewhere else. And
here's what America, here's what I think we, myself as well, doing reading on this. First of all, the federal funds aren't coming in. The state budgets are being cut. So where do locals go to? They go to property taxes. Now, you have economically challenged areas in the inner city. They can't go to poor people for property taxes. This is the big screw job that's taken place in America. There was a time in this country in public education when the doors opened, everybody was welcome. Now they just want to make it so the wealthy can come through and get a fair shake. Randi Weingarten, thank you for being a part of it. We'll talk more about it as the days go on. Bill O'Reilly wants you to think he's looking out for you. But his recent whining about his taxes getting raised proves he's only looking out for himself. Almost 75% of the country wants his taxes to go up. Stay with us.